Welcome to the Underground Gospel Show. I was just I'm kidding about that stuff because here's the deal. This is episode 129. We're about to celebrate our 130th episode next week. But if you're picking this up on Patreon, you won't know what's going on because you're getting this about the first of October. So this will be, I believe, October 2nd and 3rd, the shows. But if you're watching this free, if you're one of our free subscribers, not a free loafer, just somebody who, might not have the wherewithal to be able to afford a $2.99 membership to join our Patreon page. And I get it. I understand. I don't actually do that. I mean, I churn. Let's put it that way. I do churn. Sometimes I'm on Disney Plus and I'm on Netflix, and then I turn those off and I turn over to Paramount and Hulu, and then I'll churn off those and I'll go to Peacock. And I'm pretty much always on Peacock and Pluto because they're free. So and then every once in a while I'll watch live TV if something's coming up that I watch live, and so I'll buy YouTube for a month or two. So I churn from things. So I understand somebody might not be here forever, and that's okay. But if you are, thank you very much if you're a member of our Patreon. If you're getting this free and checking it out, without subscribing, thank you so much for watching us. This will be the Halloween issue. So Halloween issue. The Halloween program. So I'm kind of have red lights everywhere and I'm doing everything in red and I'm not really crazy about the color, but oh well, it's Halloween. So I got red and orange. I should have pumpkins and everything, but I don't. I have He Lives, which if you remember is the it's Frankenstein and what was the one the Mel Brooks one that I love so much is Young Frankenstein. He lives. Yeah, we didn't need to do any of that for Jesus. He just rolled away a rock and overcame death all on his own with no help from Dr. Frankenstein or Frankenstein. He didn't need any help from any doctors. He was the great physician himself. Um, Physician, heal them thyself. The same hands that raised the dead, that brought the sick, that brought the lame to walk, and the blind to see, decided to keep himself on a cross, nailed on a cross until he was dead, and then brought himself back to life 3 days later. So, that being said, welcome to the Underground Gospel Show. That's the purpose of tonight's show, to tell you the truth. We're going to talk about some things that I've experienced with the occult. And so this will be the occult show, I guess. Anyway, the title of the show is What If It Was All True? And the truth is, what if the whole thing of Jesus was true? What if he really did raise himself from the dead? Anyway, but first our housekeeping tips. We've got to do the housekeeping tips. So, welcome to the Underground Gospel Show. Probably nothing that you ever saw at church before. A safe place to hang out. There's no swearing or trolling, and you probably don't hear a lot of swearing in churches either. Maybe sometimes if they drop the coffee urn or something, they might hear but usually it's a Jesus, Mary, and Joseph type thing. But then anyway, so if you like what you hear, remember to subscribe. Don't have to worry about the notification bell, and I'll tell you why. Every Friday and Saturday night, just remember, Friday, Saturday, you got nothing to do. You're sitting on the couch, you're whatever. TV's gone, so whatever you're doing on Friday, Saturday night, you're not sitting around watching TV. Turn on the Underground Gospel Show. Watch it on streaming or on Twitch, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. You can watch on all those different channels and enjoy yourself. Have some fun. Get some laugh. Make a drinking game out of my mistakes. We can do that too. How about every time I do that sound, or there you can find something to enjoy yourself with this show because I try to make it an enjoyable and energetic. You can go to my website. Did I put that up there? I always forget. I swear to goodness, if I, yeah, oh no, I've got it running. How did I do that? Hmm. So you can go to nightmusic.com. I seem to have the crawl working. I used to try to follow the crawl, as it goes across, but then I realized there's like a 6 second delay between me and the crawl. And so my fingers were never on it. So it doesn't matter. Anyway, back to housekeeping. Oh, wait, here comes Elon. But the boy who never gets any sleep and gets so much other stuff done. Go to nightmusic.com for show times and links and garments. You can get Jesus and many other languages across your chest so that if you know people that are Russian, they're like, why are you wearing a Russian Jesus? It's like, because, you know. Anyway, just wait to open up your information. Invite them to your church. Do that. You know that I forget what the percentage is, but it's really high. It's like 80 or 90% of all the people who go to a church went because they were invited. You mean somebody said, hey, why don't you come to my church? And they're like, you know what? I think I will. And I got to tell you, there's been quite a few times I've gone to people's churches only because, I mean, I didn't even know that their churches were there, much less their churches. I mean, they're at school grounds and coffee shops and live streams. No, I'm just kidding. But you invite somebody to church, you never can tell. They might come. You might get a new friend. You might earn a wing when you get to heaven. Who knows? I don't know how that stuff works. I don't think you can earn a wing, but you might. You might earn two, and then you can fly. You won't be just fluttering around in circles. That image just cracked me up. Okay. Live show information if we have any, and how to support me for about a cup of coffee. Remember, I was talking about that Patreon, the $2.99 earlier. Yeah, that thing. I don't sing, which is a blessing from God. So you're already being blessed. How about that? But God can speak directly to your heart through my words, I hope. And we have sponsorship opportunities. Thank you, StreamYard. Thank you, Roland Street Amplifier. Thank you, Shure. Thank you, Breed Love and Diodario Strings. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Thank you, Light. Do you know why God said let there be light? It's because the audio was already working. That's an audio joke. I'm sorry. Okay. And if you want me to come to your city, your church, or your event, feed me. Yeah, send me an offer. Invite me. That would be like sending somebody to church. You can practice on me. Hey, Art, do you want to come to my church and bring your guitar and, let's say borderline inappropriate things at a church? Sure, I'll come and not talk at all. I'll just play guitar. And that would be the best thing in the world. In the meantime, you can practice on me and then go out there and practice on your other friends who don't go to church and bring them to church if you like them. Because here's the thing, if you bring them to church and they accept Jesus, they're going to live for eternity. And during eternity, you're going to run into them all. And let's not have a bunch of, what's a good word to call them, people? Let's just say people that you don't want to spend time with in heaven. Um, there's a joke about a certain denomination that when you go up to heaven, you have to be very quiet when you walk by the door because that's where that denomination actually is, and they think they're the only ones in heaven. So you have to be really quiet because they don't want to blow the fact that a lot of people got in because it had to do with God's grace and not their, crazy notions about the Bible. Which we all have crazy notions about the Bible too, and that's the nice thing. God's word has been crazy notions for a few thousand years now. But my question is, what if it was all true? What if Jesus really was born? What if he really walked the earth? What if he really did the miracles? What if he really died and 3 days later, came back not tired at all, and then walked around for 4 days and ascended to heaven and sitting on the right hand of the Father's throne? And what if it's all true? That's why we have lights at Christmas, is because he was the light of the world. And so And he might have been the one that said, "Let there be light." He was the Word of God. So if anybody said words up in heaven, it's probably Jesus in his heavenly Jesus form. Um, there's a word for that. I don't know what it is. I never went to seminary, which people who have called cemetery, and I did not go to cemetery. I've been to cemeteries, but I did not go to seminary, so I don't speak. It's funny. I was thinking of learning Latin the other day, and then it's like you can't speak Latin; you can only read it because it's a dead language. And it's like, but how do you know if it's true? I did an earlier episode on the Dead Sea Scrolls. Find it and watch it, and get my opinion on the Dead Sea Scrolls. There you go. In the meantime, I was going to talk about it's. I was going to tell you a story. A number of years ago, I had the good fortune to work for an animation company. I've worked for a few of them, quite a few, but I worked for one in a city in California. And while I was working there, they hired a young lady to work at the reception desk. I was what they called the token Christian, and they would make jokes about what it was token. This was before things were legal in California, and I wasn't token anything at that time. But they would make, or that's time either. Let me just clear that up. I'm not toking anything now either. But they called me the token Christian because there was about 70 people that worked there, and there was two other people that were kind of Christians, but they weren't really Christian. I mean, one guy was Christian because his grandmother had been a reverend, and so he figured that was, his claim, his way into heaven was because his grandmother preached. Somehow that translated to him. And then there was another guy who definitely, you know, it's up to God's grace to get people into heaven. And there are only two people that can call yourself Christian, are you and God. But if you believe you're a Christian, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, and maybe you're representing yourself as a type of people that other people don't believe. Because if you're cussing and drinking and carrying on and having just all kinds of weird stuff going on in your life, people are looking at you going, yeah, that's not. And this is funny. They're looking at you going, that's not what I think a Christian would do. They're not a Christian, so they don't know what a Christian would do, but they think that's not what a Christian would do. So they're not going to be a Christian because you're a hypocrite, because they're being real in, the fact that they're not Christians, which is okay. I understand. But anyway, so they hired a receptionist that believed she was a vampire. She thought she was a vampire, and at the time I wore a cross around my neck. And the funniest thing is they worked this poor girl. During the summer, they would put her on salary, so she got paid the same, but she had to come to work before the sun went up, and she couldn't go home until the sun went down. So she would be there for long hours during the summer. And in the wintertime, they'd put her on hourly and send her home early. I mean, she would come into work, like at 8 o'clock and leave at, 4:30. And it's just, and then in the summertime, she would come in at like 5:30 and have to stay till 9 o'clock. It was just, they worked that poor girl. And so, but she was a vampire. And, one day they called me into the resources office, and this is a true story. Now, mind you, it's California, but they called me in the human resources office, and I don't remember the girl's name. She was there for a short time. She actually fired me from the company, but she was there for a short time, and she called me in and she said, "Art, we would hope that." She goes, "I can't believe I have to ask you this." She goes, "You can say no; it's your choice, but you interact with everybody in this company a lot." And so I was part of the facilities team. I did a lot of stuff there. But she goes, you interact with everybody, including the receptionist. And the receptionist has complained about your cross that you wear. She says that it causes her physical pain. Now, remember, this was before any of the glowy vampires. This is when they're all the teeth and scary and drinking blood and stuff. And this is before they were all can go out in daylight and sparkly. And so she went out and she said, I can't make you, but we would hope that you'd be sensitive to her needs and remove your cross. And I said, you want me to be sensitive to the vampire's needs? She goes, well, we can't make you. Just let you know. I mean, I'm not officially making you remove your cross, but we hope that you'd be sensitive to her needs. I said, she drinks blood. Okay, seriously? You want me to be sensitive to a girl who thinks she's a vampire and drinks blood? And sure, I would love to be sensitive to her needs. So I said, I need to take an extra hour off for lunch. And I was sorry. I was always sorry at that place. So I went down to the Christian bookstore and I said, do you have any doves? And they said, yeah, we do. And I'll tell you why, because Dove has always been kind of my spirit guide. I know this is going to sound weird and creepy and Twilight Zoney, but when I was a kid, I used to wake up and there was a dove that would be right outside the tree outside my window. And then I would walk out to the front of my door and open it up, and there was some power lines. So there'd be a dove right there. Like most of my life, in every house I've ever lived in Africa, in um, China, and I mean, I have pictures out there. My Facebook page for my real name has a thing on doves because I've had doves from all over the world. I mean, it's really strange and creepy and Twilight Zoney, but in a way very comforting. And knowing the fact that God is watching over me because there's doves everywhere that I go. So I said, do you have a dove? And so they said, yeah, we do. Now, it wasn't this dove. I got another dove. I've had probably 4 or 5. This one's the longest one that I've had. This dove I've had for a long, long time. I'm trying to find another one like it because I lost it for a week and I found it at a place at the gig that I lost it at and then been run over by a tractor or whatever. But needless to say, I've yeah, he got run over by a tractor. But the dove lived. He's a little flatter now, but it doesn't have the curvature that he used to have. But I'm still wearing it, so it's fun. Needless to say, I got a dove, and so I went up. I said, 2 things I want to point out. Number one, there's no jewelry you can wear that's going to cause me physical pain. That's number one. And number two, does the dove bother you at all? And she's, no, not at all. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I wore dove ever since. And I've worn a dove ever since then. That was back 1996 or 97 when that happened. And yeah, so I've worn a dove ever since then. I'll be buried as a dove is on the shield for night. Dove is, and this one here, I don't know if you can see it. I call it my warrior dove. When we get together, hopefully you'll look at my dove and you go, oh, that's the warrior dove you were talking about. And I wish I had a dove emoji. I should have seen if I had a dove emoji. I would have put it on He Lives. I might do that in subsequent issues. But so anyway, I just wanted to share you my little story about one thing, God. Oh, and this is the thing about vampires. I got to tell you right now, vampires and Jesus have a lot in common. And I think when they wrote it, when Bram Stoker wrote the first vampire story, I think he took it as from Jesus because they both hear their master's voice, like most Christians do too. They both are raised from the dead. In Catholicism, you drink blood. You have the transmutation, which is the wine turns into blood and the host turns into his flesh. So you basically eat of the flesh and drink of his body, and that's the holy sacraments. And so we drink a representation for blood. We both die to ourselves and are risen again. Vampires rise on the third day. Jesus rose on the third day. We baptize and come out of the water a new creature. Vampires can't cross over water, but we use water as a way for rebirth. Vampires are rebirth. They become dead to their old life and reborn into a new one. They are creatures of the night. We're creatures of the light. Ooh. They can't survive in the light. we survive in the dark, but I mean, we can do either. I mean, but not saying we're better than vampires, but so anyway, because none of their jewelry bothers me at all, needless to say. Um, and it's really funny that now that she's not the only person I've met that thought she was a vampire. Ah, God bless them. So anyway, but I've met a lot of people that thought they were Christian, so it's the same thing, kind of, but different. Um. Anyway, where was I going with all this now? So creatures of light, creatures of night. You get the correlation between the hopefully vampires and Christians and vampires and Jesus. And so once again um, we give ourselves up, okay, so that we follow a set of rules dictated by our master. In fact, we call Jesus the master, you know, and vampires call the ones who bit them the master. Uh, and so, and once again, it passes on. You have to bite somebody to make them a vampire. You have to invite somebody to church to, well, you don't really have anything to do with making them a Christian. They accept Jesus and they are a Christian. I mean, you can bring them to the church, but you can't make them drink. Um, yeah, so you can bring them. So I suggest you do that. Well, let's see. It's 22 minutes and time for me to play some music and quit chit chatting here. I'm not going to play predominantly Christian music today. I'm going to do two songs for you. Neither one of them that I have ever thought. Well, one of them's Christian, definitely. It was written by Mozart, and I'll get to that later. This first one, I don't think I've ever played on the Underground Gospel Show. It's not a gospel song at all, but it is a classical song. So close your eyes, think of helicopters, and enjoy. Spooky music. Oh, do that again. Yes, Ride of the Valkyries. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. See, like a dove. Ooh, ooh. Ah. Stop when you're ahead. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Underground Gospel Show. If you made a drinking game of this and you take a drink every time I hit a wrong note, you're on your second bottle of whatever you're drinking right now. So we thank you so much for tuning in. I shouldn't be talking about drinking, because there's some people that have challenges with that are real challenges, not like you think you're an alcoholic because somebody thinks they're a vampire. You might actually have a challenge with drinking alcohol, so don't do it, even if I hate make a mistake. If you could do anything, you could pretend were a Christian and pray for me, or you could really be a Christian and invite somebody to church, or send me an email and tell me where you go to church. Tell me what you like about your church. Tell me if you celebrate Halloween. Oh, I typically don't celebrate Halloween, to be honest with you. I might tell you this story next year about when I worked at a haunted castle during Halloween. Ooh, I did that because let's face it, I'm an actor and sometimes you get gigs. What can I say? Anyway, God bless you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we will talk to you soon. Let's get out of this and get over to here, roll down there, and run credits. God bless you. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you here next week on the Underground Gospel Show. Oh, stop. Hold the presses. I need to tell you something. 1 month from today will be, well, 1 month from today will be Thanksgiving. And on Thanksgiving, I'm releasing a book during my real name. I'm going to tell you more about it in the next couple of shows. So the next couple of shows will be more about the book that I'm releasing. And they'll be on Amazon on ebook. You can also, as a Amazon on the what is it, KDP, print, Kindle on demand, print on demand. So there's a Kindle print on demand feature that I'll be doing, and you can order the book. So there'll be more information. There'll be more information about it next week. So have a happy Halloween. Stay away from the candy. Stay away from vampires, and have a blessed week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.